Raw? This is a raw. Calm. Or this one. The architects are not even helping me. Come, sit. Please take your seats. These chairs are to be filled as well. Eh? So just come and sit here. Yeah. All right, good afternoon. Are you well? Are you prepared? Are you ready to be bamboozled? To be blown away? Then we'll put you back. This room, when you're blown away, you can be put back. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to BLN Connect. I first of all want to thank Apostle Moses Mukisa, our pastor, who ensured that we have this place and this particular program. We were somewhere and they said, can we get people to inspire us? Yeah? Like we have a lot of knowledge. You business people, you've been taught there's nothing you don't know about business. But sometimes you need some inspiration. Okay? So he said, get some inspiring business leaders to come and inspire us. And that's why we are here. That's how we started BLN Connect. All right? So today is one of those other days. We have BLN Connect once a month. Thursday, 3 to 5 p.m. So start ticking off your calendars for that last Thursday of the month. All right? So today, I'm not going to waste a lot of your time. Today, we have another special guest. Are you ready and excited to hear from our guests? Online, are we on? We are. Beautiful. So are you ready and excited to hear more from our guest? Yes. Now put your hands together and welcome with me Mr. Ron Kawamara, who is our guest today. Now some of you know him, some of you don't, but look, even if you know him, chances are high that you know about him. Yeah, and you don't know him. You know, when you see someone from a distance, you by and large know about them. Don't be fooled that you know. So you're going to be bamboozled, you're going to be blown away, but you're going to be inspired by his story. So let's welcome Mr. Ron Kawamara this morning. And please, you can, this morning, did I say morning? Yes. Ron, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Pastor, for having me.
We've been waiting for you. These people all know about you. Clearly, they are excited. Other people are online. And we're going to hear your story today. You're going to inspire us in what you've done. You're going to tell us about your future, what you're planning, and many other such things. But first and foremost, tell us a little bit about you. Who is the Ron Kawamara that we know about? Give us a little glimpse of who you are.
Thank you, and it's good to be here. So this church is very important to me. I used to attend Katikati Worship Harvest. So some of you I might have seen pre-COVID. So, but it's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Ron Kawamara. I'm a husband and a dad, a brother, a son, and I see myself as somebody who is obsessed with creating impact and value. So and I love the Lord, and God has been there for me, with me, through the good days and the bad days, and because of His grace, here we are. Thank you.
Awesome. Now I'm going to be pulling some more things from out of you. Tell us about your journey. I mean, did you come from heaven and land on earth? When did you come? Did you even go to school? Look. Huh? Maybe you are just anointed for business. Did you even finish school? Because these days we hear most of the guys don't finish. Like, we know about you. Eh? Yeah, so tell us some more. Your journey. Who raised you? Maybe you are raised by an angel. Yeah. Who grew you?
You know, the good things when I look in the audience, there's several people who I know and who know me. But maybe talk about what I do. First, so I'm a businessman, and our group of companies is called Hugarama. We invest in restaurants, we invest in service departments, hotels, logistics, IT. So some of the brands, you might know the brands in IT and security. And we've added a few more product ranges before. But my education career, I attended a very small government school in Fort Portal called Bihinga Primary School. So if you've been to Fort Portal, it's right there on Muguru's Road.
OBs or OGs?
OGs. And then after that, I went to the only school in Tara School. Yeah, so I went to Terry for 4 years, and then now the real problems begin. After senior 4, you know these things, these churches. I got my uncle connected me to a pastor friend of his in the U.S. So and now I go to the state of Colorado, thinking that the U.S. is great, but my uncle had promised that he would come back and be with me. So I attempted to apply and change my status from being a tourist with a tourist visa to be a student. And thank you so much. But I was denied. Now imagine you're with this Muzungu and you get a letter in the mail saying your visa application has been denied because we believe you came with an intent to study. So which is against your visa rules. And you have 30 days to leave the country. Now, poor Muzungu panics. So now, I had to find a way to leave. But I knew that in the state of California, there was a lot more Ugandans than in Colorado. So I jumped on the bus. I didn't know anywhere I was going. So I jumped on the bus. The bus took about 3 days to come from the state of Colorado to the state of California. I landed in Los Angeles. I asked around for a Ugandan church. There was a Ugandan church called Church on the Way in Shamanok.
On the way back home.
On the way back home, no. And so that was my landing space. I didn't have any money. So anyways, the struggle began. I met a Ugandan person there who took me in for a bit. But after like 3 weeks, people need you to move on. I had no job, I had no money, so I convinced my parents to look for money. So my dad went to the village, sold all the cows he could sell to send me $2,000. Now, $2,000 of then, in 2003, is maybe like 20,000 of today. And so now, I get this 2,000, and this Ugandan lawyer had promised me that he would be able to adjust my status. Wow. I can't say his name. But the money was sweet. So now I've used up the money my dad gave me. I'm literally, I'm now on the street. I'm sleeping in the church. And so, yes.
Thank God for
the church. But then for the church, you couldn't sleep there on Wednesday. You couldn't sleep there on Saturday or on Sunday.
There was a limit to the grace.
There was a limit because they had to do practice, they had to do church activities. Yes, so those days I was sleeping on the bridge. So actually I didn't tell them. There was a bridge close by that actually had a very comfortable space with other people who also needed, and actually was okay.
Similar situation.
Yes, so for about 6 months, when I was not in church, I was going to that bridge. And I was praying to God. I'm like, God, if I ever get an opportunity to go back to school. Then eventually I got a job at a place called Hollywood Video. It was a video rental store. So he rents games and DVDs. And I remember I was still 17 at that point. So now I was there, I would see kids come in with their parents to pick up DVDs, and I would first go to the bathroom and cry. I'm like, God, even me, will I also get a chance to, go back to school and have a parent and have all these things? But, I went through that. 2 years later, by the grace of God, I was able to normalize my status. I was able to get my papers. And the first thing I did was to go back to school. So I went to a school called Los Angeles Valley College and went to Berkeley. But I remember, because of the 2 years I'd gone through, and I remember one of the nights when I was on that bridge, I asked somebody to give me $10. I didn't have money. So then they gave me $10. I walked for about 1.5 kilometers to a McDonald's. As soon as I got there, it was about 10:20 p.m., I got the drive-through. The McDonald's was closed, but the drive-through was still open. I saw them closing. They're saying, no, you need to be in a vehicle in a drive-through. Now, remember in Los Angeles, if you are black, a teenager, at 10 p.m., coming to the drive-through, they think there's a gun and you're trying to rob. And I walked back to that place hungry. And that happened to me many times when I actually went to bed hungry. But so for me, that was a training period. And I told myself that when I get a chance, I'll utilize it. So when I went back to class, I would look around and see all the students, and I would tell myself that I was as good as anyone in that class. And I would try to spend the whole semester proving to myself that I was as good as them, because for the 2 years, I didn't feel I was as good as anybody. And so for me, my humanity was in the classroom, is to show to them and to me that I can actually be as good. And I was a good student. I graduated top of my class. Now, the good things started to come. I went to university. I went to good graduate schools. I went to Oxford. I went to Cambridge. But I told myself that I would not go back to Los Angeles, where I suffered. Yes, so there's something about it that for me, once you've been, when people have looked at you a certain way and you've accepted it, you've internalized the victimhood, I did not want to go back. So for me, when I graduated, now remember now I had become a citizen of the US. By the time I graduated with my master's degree, I did not go back to the US. I came here. And at that point, it's not that we had a job lined up. I told myself that with the degree that you gave me, God, with the knowledge, with the experience of suffering, with the experience of having nothing when you have no education, no papers. Now I'm going back to Uganda where I have something. I came back. We came back, actually, it was 3 of us. We came at that point, we started a company called Hello Food. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So the story of Hello Food, actually, people have never understood it. So we were at Oxford, and I was organizing the Oxford Africa Conference. And in that conference, as one of the organizers, I invited 3 people from Uganda. I invited then Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sam Kutesa, to come and speak to us. I invited Kiza Besigye, who was under house arrest in his place here. And I invited Winnie Byanyuma. Now, I'll tell you how the destiny comes into this. Now, when I went to visit Winnie at the time was the Oxfam president, based in Oxford. He said, Kiza's just been here. There's no way he'll agree to come back. But if you go to Uganda, I think you can convince him. So I came here, and then he agreed to come. Why is this important? Yes. On the last day of the conference, there were coffee and drinks. They were happening at a bar that used to be a church 600 years ago. So in the UK now, a lot of the churches that used to be churches have been converted into bars because no one is going to church anymore. So now it's happening there. I was so tired and wiped out, so I said, let me go home and sleep. As soon as I got to bed, Winnie calls me and says, oh, Kiz and I have arrived. Are you here? I'm like, God. So I jumped on my bike. road to meet them there. At that event, it's where me and my other two colleagues met people who would change our lives. Wow. They were looking to have an opportunity to do business in Africa. So, and they were the German group, it's a German company. So we came here to prove that actually this could work. So when we came here to begin a company called Hello Food, we thought that it's going to be very easy. That in the UK, there was a company called Just Eat. Just Eat, it was an app and a website whereby you would place your order and the restaurant would deliver to you. The restaurant handled the delivery. So we thought, let's come here, also put up menus online, and customers in Golobi, in Nalia, would just place the orders and the restaurants would deliver. So we created a website called hellofood.ug. Any of you remember this? Oh, yes. Okay. So now we go to the restaurants say, but Ron, we're excited, we want to do business, want to get business from the offices, what? And we tell them, but we need 20% commission. They're like, we don't even make 20% profit. How do I give you 20%? So now we decided that we have to teach these restaurants how to calculate their margins. We found that about 88% of them were all losing money. Wow. And because the other guy is selling chicken and chips at 12,000 shillings, me, I'm going to make mine at 11,000 shillings. So the whole city, this is 2012, 13, the whole city was on a race to the bottom. They think they are competing, but they were losing.
Busy sinking themselves.
Yeah, they were sinking to themselves. Because this guy is selling his Katogo at 8,000, mine will be 7,000. They didn't do any menu science. No one really was calculating their man hours, their overheads, the cost of goods they're selling. So we spent the next 9 months teaching the restaurants how to come up with pricing on the menus. Now remember, I thought, for me, I would just put up a website and people would just order and restaurants would deliver. So now we're teaching restaurants how to come up with a menu. Then we realized actually that none of the restaurants at the time even had packaging materials. They would put chips and chicken in a kavera, wrap it, and send it on a border. Because if you remember, this is like 13 years ago. There was only about like maybe 7 restaurants in Kololo, the bistros, Tamarais. Everyone else was just sending in kavera. So now we were like, okay, how do we even begin here? So we said, okay, let's go to China. We imported like about 2,000 packaging materials just to show them how you pack the chips. We brought them here and we showed them how to pack the food. Then we went to the issue of delivery. They would send a random border to... So now we had to get our own motorcycles, brand them Hello Food, and make them dressed in orange, and they look nice. So now, remember, our goal was to just put up a website. Then now we go to the issue of navigation. You know, now KCC has done a better job of mapping the streets and putting the street names. 2013, there was none of that. There was only a mango tree behind the mosque, right? And now imagine that we deliver to you today, and then tomorrow we're asking you, where are you again? Behind which mosque, which? So now we decided to create a navigation tool that we called Urban Ninja. It was so rudimentary. But at least if we came to your house, we would be able to ping you on our system so that keep you there. So the next driver has all the steps that we took to get to you. So tomorrow, we won't keep calling you and saying, which tree again? Now then, the last one was the website. You know, then at the time, almost all Ugandans were getting the internet on their phone. And because no one had laptops, there's very few in offices. So we realized we quickly had to do the app. Because the app allows us to be able to track you and what, you know, get a little bit of information and communicate to you. So we developed the app. Until then, that's when we were able to have a business. So all those, we thought we would come and have a website and restaurants would do their own delivery. They would make money and I would make money. But we realized actually nothing we thought was on the ground. Eventually, it took off. Customers were happy with our service. We grew. We opened in Rwanda, in Kenya, Tanzania. Then eventually we became Jumia Food. Actually, after we've proven the model, then Jumia Food acquired the business. Now, why for me this story is important for me, had I known that actually there's no business, that I have to create it, I have to create the value and create the impact, I would have never come. And so, in a way that we have to be comfortable with the unknown, what we don't know. Very often, people ask me, but Ron, if I do this, will I make money? And I'm like, I don't know whether you'll make money or not. But you have to be comfortable with the unknown. And two, that the business that we created was not on the website or the app. It was all the problems that we resolved of supply chain, of packaging, of navigation, of teaching menu science to the restaurants. That's when we created value that we could sell to the restaurant and we could sell to the consumer. Without creating that value, there was just bits and pieces. Very often, you also have people who say, but I have this idea, how can I make it? But if I tell this idea, you'll take it. But actually, for us, we had an idea of the website. We had no idea about all the intricacies. But by doing and communicating and failing, we were able to put together what, in the end, became a business. Then I joined Jumia at the time as both a shareholder and MD. For Uganda, I became MD for East Africa, and SVP, Senior Vice President for the group, and then until 2022. Now, when I joined Jumia, maybe it's God. Whereas a lot of the MDs joined in were looking for salary, I was interested in equity. I can tell that throughout my time at Jumia, only 30% of my income was in cash. The rest was paid to me in equity. And that will turn out to be a game changer. Because in 2018, we decided to go public. We decided to go public, and now my shares mean something. Right now, my shares mean something. I'll pack it there. But even before Jumia went public, I quickly understood that I was not utilizing my own values to create value. I was telling you earlier today that creation, the most important thing in life is to create. Whether it's in your home, whether it's your job, creating. And I felt that when I was at Jumia, I was using one leg of the creation story. I was creating, but part of a much larger creation that was little to do with me. I wanted something that is scalable, that I could own, right? That I can pass on. That's when I started doing my own business. Well before I left Jumia. We created our first cloud kitchens in 2015. Cloud kitchens are those restaurants that are available for delivery only, but they don't exist to walk-in customers. Logistics. We started a security company also in 2015. A security company that does physical security. For me, the point was I saw that unless I'm creating constantly, I was just creating for Jumia, and I was a shareholder there, but I was a small shareholder. I wasn't creating for me and my family. And so for me, it was very important that I find ways where I can create value that is scalable, that I can pass on. And those businesses, by the time I left Jumia, they were bringing in 98% of my income and by taking about 5% of my time. So I was like, okay, at this point I have to invert the equation and focus 98%. And so it wasn't very easy. Our first cloud kitchen, we started with 18 million shillings. Right, we just bought Sigidis and a few other things and made sure that we can actually, it wasn't one day supplying a lot of Makerere students. And so over time, they grew, they overtook the value that I was creating. So for me, creating value means using what you have. Because as I was telling you earlier, that value is three things. It's people, it's time, and capital. So people, okay, that maybe it's me, I can get some other people. Time is mine and time of others that I hire. And capital is whatever I have access to. You know,
Not necessarily money.
not necessarily money.
Okay.
It's a network. It's a skill set that you have.
Yeah.
It's the money that you might have, the salary that you have. For me, it was the little salary that I was getting, which was much, much less before we sold the shares. For me, that's what started the business, right? It's what started our first restaurant called Patio in Tinda. You know, it was very small money that we started that has grown out 12 restaurants. And you asked a question, I think, during our coffee chat, and I was trying to remember, but for me, the story of creation. Why, for me, creation is so important in what I do. I see myself as a creator because when you don't, let's say you have one restaurant and it's a very small restaurant. If you're not creating a new experience, the new menu, a new customer service, a new product, you're sinking relative to others who are creating. You are declining. Now, if others are innovating and creating, relative to them, you are declining. Yes. So you create with what you have, not what you don't have. We spoke earlier about the story of creation in the Bible. Now, in the Bible it says, at the beginning there was the Word. The Word was with God. Yes. Right? And the Word was God, and so on and so on. And what did God use to create initially? The Word. Yeah.
That's all
yes, he said, let there be, and there was. Yeah. But then, over time, there was more. Yes. Heavens, the earth. But when it came to human beings, he got the dirt that was there.
He used what was already existing.
Existing, yes. He used that dirt to create the man.
Value, yeah.
But then once the man was here, he went to the rib of the guy, and at no point did he use what wasn't in existence.
Wow.
And so creation is the same. Whether it's in your job, there's always something to utilize to create something. And so we are called to create. For as long as you're not creating, relative to those who are creating, you're gradually sinking. So what are you creating today? Yeah. What do you have? The thing is that we focus on what we don't have, and forget what we have. And there's always something that you have to create. Now, it doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be massive. Yeah. But there's always enough to create. And now, in business, once you create, something, and you realize the value of creation and the impact it drives, you become obsessed with creation. Like, I'm obsessed with creating. Every single day, what can I do better? How can I do this? I'm literally, so in our group of companies, I'm the CEO, but there's an MD. The MD's role is to do the day-to-day management of the existing businesses. My job is to create, I say I'm the hunter, is to bring in things that are not here yet. Because I want to focus on creation. Imagine the person who created a nuclear weapon. Because how the nuclear weapons work, it uses two things. One is fission. It's a fusion and fission, which means that once that explosion happens, each of the explosion produces another explosion. Yeah. And in business, we call that scalability, right? To be able to have a sustainable business, it has to be scalable, right? Scalable that it can isolate people, time, and capital from you, the creator. Now,
You don't have to be there.
you don't have to be, because very often, and I've seen many of my friends and colleagues who say, okay, but they create a business and they're still working there 9 to 5, like they used to do in their company. And so that's not scalable, because now you've become self-employed, but you've not created value that you can transfer in your absence. And for me, the difference between being valuable and creating value is that very often we're just valuable to our companies, to our families, but we're not creating value that you can pass on. And so that's, for me, creating value is something that is scalable, that you can pass over, creates its own capital, and manages its own time. That's creation. Because after God created us,
He has never come back.
He has never come back to recreate us.
Automated creation.
He says, you go and create and procreate. Continue the process, yes. So He actually empowered us to create. And so and we discussed this briefly, that, even the scientists who don't agree with creation, they believe in what you call the Big Bang. They say that everything, all the energy and matter was created in one bang. And you cannot recreate matter, you cannot destroy it. So which means that even if you were to burn this book, you get ash. You've actually not created ash. You've just transferred it from this form of plastic to another form that already exists. Even when our good pastor and myself here pass away, only thing that is the soul goes, but the body becomes soil, it's consumed. So we cannot create anything. Neither can we destroy anything. But we can create value. The only thing we can create is value. Is how do we use what God has created? People, God has created. Time, God has created. Capital, God has created. So, I see myself as a creator of value. And that is, I'm obsessed with that. When I was a CEO, I was obsessed with it, creating it for the group, for the shareholders. But it wasn't enough. That's not scalable enough. That's not possible in its format and time owning. No, I was working 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. But something touched me. Create your own value. And then I started doing the small projects. They became now 98% of my income. Then I was able to say, now let me create something much bigger. And that's how I moved from being a CEO to doing my own businesses. The other part that, so maybe I can divide them into, the first one is that be comfortable with the unknown. The second one was strategic partnerships. And this is where there's three things. There's capital, there's time, and there's people. So capital is part of the network. I was very fortunate that I was not a tech person. So right now we have one of the biggest tech companies in Uganda. It's called Bazotech. We've done incredible projects. We're doing the Bank of Uganda InterSwitch system that the banks use to connect to each other. We're doing the new Minister of Health, Health Insurance Backbone platform. We've just did the Electric Emission Biometric Transmission System. So we've done many in government, but also in private. But how we did it was strategic partnerships. I'm not a developer, but I knew developers. And my experience was building brands, building systems, routines, and cultures. Yeah, it was like, so I put together people who bring something unique, and together we're able to create. But then I was also able to court much bigger partners. I mean, when we did Hello Food, how we quickly managed to grow quickly is we convinced MTN. We convinced MTN we're saying no one is using your payment system to buy retail things. So work with us to integrate. So they paid for integration, they paid for the marketing. And I remember I was barely 24 years old, going to meet the CEO of MTN, but I was so adamant that why not me? Why not me to go in and convince them that, but so I realized that actually the quickest way, the cheapest way to scale a business is through strategic partnerships. If you wait to do it alone, I have people who come to me and say, Ron, I would like to do this idea, but I don't have money for development, I don't have money for marketing. I was like, but how come if you got ABCD, you're in a church, you're in a school, you're in a company? Right now, I'm the UTB board, so I'm the vice chair of Uganda Tourism Board. I was with a team from UTB and our managers, and I was telling the same thing about using every moment as an opportunity to create value for you, for your family. And I said, okay, so one of them was head of marketing, one of them was head of MICE, which is events, conferences and so on and so on. The other was head of product development. I said, between you three, maybe you are the most experienced people in the tourism space because you know the product, you know the marketing, you know the conference and so on. Okay, but how have you used that to create value? The value you've created is great, it's for the country, right? So it's not scalable, it's not passable, you must create something that you can pass on. And you have, between your ecosystem of colleagues, you have enough people to create this. So the strategic partnerships. The third one is systems, routines, and performance management. Now, our biggest issue that I've seen when I went to the restaurant, you can see that they didn't have systems, they didn't have routines, and they didn't manage performance, right? Here's my belief. You cannot grow what you don't measure. There's no chance you can grow what you don't measure. Even if it's a marriage, there's no key indicators of how you're doing, even if it's your children. Now, these indicators do not have to be formalized. Maybe you've agreed that 2 days a week is for family, right, for you and your wife. And you've already created a performance without knowing it, parameter. But let's assume that you do not create that. Then you will never know whether you're succeeding until something bad happens, or until your wife tells your friend or tells your mother that things at home are not nice. So, performance management, and I'll give you this. One of the reasons that we did very well with the restaurants is because we are able, me as the head of the company, I know how many grams of onions go in an omelette. I know how many milliliters of cooking oil go in an omelette. Yes. We're obsessed with that. It gives us at least 10-15% advantage over everyone else. And people wonder how you start in 5-6 years, you've grown to 12 locations, we're opening in Nairobi and Dubai. It's very simple. We measure everything. We track everything. We're obsessed with how many man hours it takes. We do not, before you convince me that we're adding a waiter, we'll go through the numbers. We'll go through a heat map and see how many orders you're getting per hour and see how many staff you have and convince me. We're obsessed with that. Performance management. It's critical everywhere in your job. If you're not measuring your own performance, somebody will measure it for you. If you're not measuring your own output, the appraiser will. So the obsession, and that for me, it's a cultural thing, right? That self-awareness has not been our thing. I'd give an example between when we asked people to self-appraise. So I'll give you this because we've had French people and had all the Europeans who come, And so you look at the appraisal, self-appraisal of the Ugandans, of us, the Ugandans, and the Europeans. So on average, a top performer, European would rank themselves around 68, 70%. A European, that's a top performer, will appraise at about 68% self-appraisal. I'll give you all the reasons why they didn't meet their own internal benchmarks. They said, we have achieved the company goals, but I did not achieve my company goals. So their company goals are so important. Their own goals are equally important to the company goals. Now, reverse that to us.
Tell us.
Even when we've not covered the company goals, we'll think, but me, I've covered mine. But then you realize to do performance management, first you must have what to manage. What have you set for yourself? So because we're not setting our own individual goals.
They missed it. You need to have what to manage.
What to manage, yes. So because we're not setting our own individual goals, why am I in the organization? Right? What am I trying to achieve? Right? Then our target was so low that mentally, just by showing up, we met it. Because our goal was to show up, not to create value. Right? Now, for those who set value as a target, you are a little bit hard on yourself, yes. So self-appraisal, you could see the difference. There was always a big gap between how the managers appraise us, the Ugandans, and how they appraise the Europeans. There's a whole always gap. So performance management is a big problem. The reason that a lot of the companies of us Ugandans don't last beyond the owner, the second owner, is performance management. That if you cannot track and measure, you cannot grow it. And so for me, that has been another area that for us has been an obsession. You create, you measure it, you grow it, and you keep creating, yes. And then the last part is the ecosystem of success. Now, for me, the ecosystem of success at the beginning of Hello Food was the logistics that we had to do, the packaging, the training on the menu science, right? Building the app. Then eventually, okay, how do you, once you grow, once we became Jumia, how do you remit cash from Ntoroko district where I come from Gulu, right? We had real problems having so much cash. So, and that was before there was money agents everywhere, right? So we had to create our own ecosystem for our own functional purposes. Okay, now let's try to replicate that as creators. Yeah. How do you create an ecosystem of success, right? Sometimes we don't have the time, we don't have the people, we don't have the capital. Not because they don't exist. We don't even recognize they exist. Because I say, who are the people? There's you, there's your colleagues, there's, the time, it's a decision to create time, right? It's an absolute decision. And then capital, strategic partners, your own salary, and understanding what you have, goes back to self-awareness a bit, being self-aware. And for me, on that point, understanding what you have, what you don't have, it goes back to the example I gave of self-appraisal. Self-awareness, very, very important. Because if you don't perceive what you have, you can't create. Yeah, you can't create.
You don't see value in yourself.
Yes, yes, yes.
You have no starting ground.
Yes, yes. So I don't know where we are going, but
well, we're enjoying.
I think my journey of how we have gone. So the ecosystem of success now for us in the restaurants. Now we have a central storage where we procure everything. We have a central preparation, so we portion all the food, we marinate, and then now all the restaurants are buying from the centralized kitchen. Our goal is to standardize our quality, our speed of execution, and to negotiate in bulk. We're creating our own cold chain, logistics. We're hiring a group head chef who's able to train all the chefs in one place. Now we have a security company, we do our own security. We have an IT company that does all our IT solutions. We graduated to serviced apartments. Now we went to lodges in Queen Elizabeth. And so, but we do not want to get away with what we're good at. We are good at being hospitable and serving the customer in a specific way. So our ecosystem of success, you won't see me tomorrow, supplying what? Selling gumboots, right? It's not in my realm of success, ecosystem of success.
Yes.
And so creating that makes business cheaper, better.
You stay in the same value chain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing on the ecosystem of success, and for me it was very important in 2015. So 2015, we had become Jumia Food, and now as a Jumia CEO, I was very young. I was lucky that I didn't get taken away. What saved me is that I told myself that I'm not going to be part of the corporate ecosystem. Yeah. So I didn't go to the corporate events. You didn't see me with the MTN MDs and Airtel and the insurance companies. I spent all my time with people who were creating. Yes. One of the guys his name is Henry Mayanja, he was in logistics, doing trucks. I have one of the other guys, he owns this hardware world in Bokoto. Maybe my friends were people, some of them didn't have any education at all, but they were creating things. Yes. And I would say that maybe 60% of my opportunities, success, how I see things, came through the people I spent time with. The mistake that we make is to be caught up in the value chain of others.
Hey.
And that's when you're the corporate life. That's a value chain of others.
So you're conflicting value chains.
The value chain of others. Remember, if I was the CEO at Jumia, with other CEOs who were caught up in the value chain of others. And it's a big bubble. We think that by meeting and going to same events, there's not much you're learning except to accelerate the creation of value for those you're already doing it for. But the people that I learned the most from were the people who had created their own value chains. They showed me how to start the business, how to struggle and do payroll and all the things. And so, and it wasn't that it was by design, but it was by following these people, spending time with them, going to their homes. One of the things, I went to this guy, his name is Henry, he has a nice house in Kira. I can tell you that I love this house so much. I told myself, God, this is what I want for me. This is what I want for me. But then I looked at, and my salary is good. I look at my salary, I'm like, it would take me 10 years of this salary to get that, so I better do something else. It's small things that kind of spark you like, wow. And this guy had just also started 5 years earlier. He had failed, but he had persisted. And so my ecosystem of success involved people who were in Chukuvo, who were doing hardware, who were doing these trucks. One of them is a bus in Fort Portal. Like people who were not using their degrees, right? But they were using their actual skills, the three things I told you,
value,
to create value. So value cannot just be found in our normal, it's everywhere, but you have to be willing to go out and find it,
Hey, guys, isn't that beautiful? I just feel like I've gone to an MBA of business creation. Now we're going to take some questions. Yeah, is that a good thing? Yeah, but I've seen a man, according to your story. You see, I say that we know about you, but I sense we're getting to know you. You went to school, hustled on the bridge, spent nights hungry, got an opportunity. you utilized it. Earlier, you were telling me about every encounter is an opportunity of creating value. Then you had that meeting at the university, which sparked you back here. You made relationships. You went back to find practical solutions. You didn't fear the unknown. Recently, I had a very wealthy man who said if he had known what he was going to go through to create his business, he wouldn't have started. And I think sometimes those are the hindrances we get. We want to tick every box before we start, not knowing that the journey in itself is going to create us or create value in us. Now, some of the things I told you earlier, that one of the things we are trying to do here is to create 1,000 businesses, each with a turnover of $1 million. And that can seem a small figure to you. But indulge us. One of the things that all the people who have done it, the people we've talked to, have in one way or another gone into partnerships. And I'm glad that you said it was one of the things that, that has given you value as well. Tell us more a bit about it. Where we are in this nation, all these guys, they have big dreams. I can guarantee you. But oftentimes we can't fulfill those dreams alone. What are some of those hacks to partnerships? And then we can get some questions. Because I have a big dream, I don't have the financial resources. I have a big dream, I don't have the people to execute the dream. You told us you're not a tech, but I know you for tech. So what are some of those hacks that can lead us into great partnerships?
Well, I think that very often we start looking for business or creating without first understanding what we bring. So very often I ask myself, and why do many businesses fail to succeed? So you find an individual, they wake up and they start a restaurant, they start a boutique, they start a saloon, and if you ask them what are they trying to solve, what problem are you trying to solve? They'll struggle to tell you. They will tell you, I want to make money, right? To feed my family, to do this, to do ABC, and that's a very important motivation. However, the free market system is unforgiving. Unless you are solving a unique challenge in ways that no one else is doing it, you will have a business, but it won't be transformative. You know, now I can tell you, for example, for me, when we did Hello Food, is where we wanted to provide convenience to somebody in the office, at home, who cannot drive, and get this, eventually became save time, save money. But then now for restaurants, there were already so many restaurants. But for me, it told me that we're trying to take advantage of the inefficiency within the restaurant business, make more money per product sold, use that money to become a better business and open more businesses. I was very specific that unless I'm able to get 15% or more, I will not open. And I was very clear with my numbers, my costings, that, okay, now I know that I have a 15% advantage over the other guy.
Yeah.
I will accelerate faster, I will give better experience, but I'll make more money so I can be better. To do that, of course, then partnerships come in. For me, it's about understanding your unique proposition. What are you looking to do?
So even as you're looking for partners, you know what you're bringing to the table.
Yes, and you had Uganda as the most entrepreneurial country in Uganda, so we start more businesses per capita than any other country.
Yeah.
But however, we are starting the same businesses. If you go to Dakasero Market and you look at the whole stand, they'll be selling the same products, right? It's not different. You go to a mall randomly in Nigeria, in Nalia,
same things.
you'll see that it's the
Clothes,
same.
Saloon, supermarket.
So now, if you know how economics work, right, you know that eventually at equilibrium, everybody's just breaking even, right? That's not scalable, right? So the question is, we're not thinking critically enough what solution you're providing the market. And once you identify the gap that you're trying to resolve, right? Now it's easier to find the right partner. It's easier
You also
to
appreciate the partner.
you appreciate the partner as well. But so understand what you want. It's starting a business is not an end goal of itself. It's about finding the unique. Another example I have where Ugandans made mistakes when they discovered oil in Waima. Oh my God! Everybody went and bought land everywhere. If they told you there was a quarry, a rock, they bought it, and then you found actually that the CPU for Total was like 200 miles away from everybody had bought. But in our mind, like if I buy land close to where it is, I can put a shop, I can put an apartment, I can sell the rock, I can sell parking. But nobody actually took time to say, let me go to another oil producing country that has discovered oil and see who in the value chain is making money. Who in the value chain? Is it the guy who's supplying a safety pin? Or the guy who's supplying eggs? Who in this value chain is making money and what's not available? No one, we just all went in and all of us lost money, right? So that's the issue that we have, is that we do not take time to understand what solution the market needs. And we're creating value. Creating value means that you're offering something to people that was not there in a specific format. And so, so in business, I say, okay, should you go where everyone is going, ride the wave, right? There's a case for that. You can say that. So in economics, you could say that, okay, if you aggregate supply, it's easy to aggregate demand. Yeah. Okay, there's a case for that. But there's another can say, okay, but if everybody's going in this direction, let's see what they have not seen or what they have dropped.
What can we improve?
That's another way. Yeah. Another way could be actually, let's begin with what solution is required. And you try to create your own niche, your own market. And I use this example. So I wanted to get into IT solutions for government. I told myself, how do I get into this? So I went to the State House anti-corruption led by Nakalema. I said one of the reasons that actually there's so much corruption in lands, in URSB, UNBS, is the systems don't talk to each other. That when people are complaining and saying, investors are coming and they're saying that, okay, but we're not helped. But the question is, okay, who is not helping? Yeah. So now I propose to them that we can build for you a system that actually, for free. So now we are supposed to build a system that allows all the government agencies to be able to communicate and see if you've made an application today at the RSB and you made another one, to get land at lands. You made another one at Uganda Investment Authority to get land in industrial parks. And you made an application for a tax identification number. Where is the delay? So now, by them agreeing that we can build this, I was in touch with the teams at all these agencies. We're able now, we went to, once it was done and developed, a lot of fanfare, handed it over to State House, the president came. They were able to see what we could do. Then now, next time, right, we've proven that we have the capacity, capability, and willingness to do. Another area we did, which I won't go into details, was a solution for police, right? Which we also offered to do it at cost. And we are trying to find a problem that no one is solving, right? And then a lot of the work that we've done, we've gone to clients and proposed a solution they did not even think about. They don't even think about. So in a way, we created our own market. Maybe it's not government. Maybe it's a church like this. Maybe it's logistics. Maybe there's so many areas where we need to disrupt and change. I was looking at a company in Kenya last week. They put together a central kitchen that produces 60,000 meals a day. And now they've convinced the Nairobi County schools, they're all getting from this guy who built an engine, doing it cheaper than the city was paying, faster. And so this is a solution that no one even knew we needed. So a lot of the business ideas come from a problem that you see, not from a solution that you see. Not because everyone is doing a boutique, everyone is doing a saloon, everyone is making money, you do the same. No, you're following solutions, you're not following problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you the problems are many. They are around us.
There are many, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Ron. Now we're going to take some questions. Are you ready? Do you have some questions for us? All right. Is there a mic to help us with that?
Hi, Ron. How are you?
Hello.
Yeah, thanks for articulating very well. My name is Brian Obore. I have two questions, but they're quite short. So the first one is, you talked about, the different companies that you have under your group. And I was just looking at them, and restaurant, security, they're kind of different, although some may provide services to the other. How are you able to determine what to do next? You said you're a creator, right? How are you able to determine that next thing to do? And then the other one is something I'm quite interested in, performance management. For example, a restaurant. You're looking at your staff in the restaurant. How are you looking at that performance management? How are you determining, what are the metrics you're looking at, for your performance management? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for teaching or sharing. So I have 3 questions. One,
So what's your name?
my name is Muhum Zaroni, and I run a kitchen called Gaiwenyama. So the question is, what is your golden inventory management, to ensure you are not bleeding the money on the food, like you're not bleeding money on the food. Since you've done costing, what is that golden inventory management system? Then the second question is, when you are, now you have created your kitchen, you have your recipe, so how do you document the recipe and the prep steps for the product? Like, how do you do that? Then the third question is, what is that one process that caused you the most bottleneck, and how did you resolve it?
Okay, let me first take these 2. For Brian, is that in the group, so our group of companies now 18 companies. So IT is the glue, but we do microfinance, we do hospitality, tourism. And so for me, we have a centralized process. So for example, we've centralized our senior management. So marketing is a centralized function, finance is a centralized function, procurement is. So what does that mean? Then I'm also a shared function. Human resources is a shared function. It means that at business level, we have operator level staff. So the cost of scaling becomes cheaper, because the same marketing team, the same finance, the same will do the next business. So I'm able to manage my costs by fixing the senior management costs. The only other costs that are variable are the operators, and operators are cheaper than senior management. So typically, I will not add on a business line where we don't have the expertise and the systems to manage, right? And so if it doesn't fit in our management expertise, and over time we've developed quite a bit, we won't add it on. It has to be either complementary, or we have the skill set to manage. And also, there's things that come, as I told you, that every opportunity, every thing that God puts in your life is an opportunity to create. When I joined Uganda Tourism Board as a vice chair of the board, I was not in tourism, minus. You can say restaurants are tourism also, but I wasn't a practitioner. But I saw the gaps in tourism, and now we have a tour company, we have lodges, you know, and my time at UTB has not been creating value just for the country. I have to create value that is scalable, that is, for me, my time there has to mean something. I joined the board of I&M Bank, so I was never in banking. So I asked them, why do you guys want me to join your board? And they said that, okay, they wanted my experience, building tech, using digital platforms to reach people, my experience failing in business. You know, I said, okay, but what do I gain, right? Because, you know, and so even there, what I've gained is understanding how companies fail, right? Because I'm on about 3 committees in the board, in the bank, and I've read every case study there is. The risk profile of most, I read the risk profile, especially those companies that are defaulting. I'm very interested to understand why they're defaulting, right? And it has made me so much better. I'm glad I serve on the board of a bank. It has helped me create better value, be a better creator. And so every opportunity to, a question, how do I decide what to add? It has been opportunities that sometimes God has put in my way that has opened doors. Everything, if you're a member of a church, who are you learning from? What do you see that, you know, I told I had some of my siblings, you know, they were very talented people. Some of them are working in our group. But I said, they were all staying at home with my dad. I said, guys, you have to leave the house. You have to go. Because once you have your own apartment, you know what it takes to pay rent, to pay electricity. And then you will see the guy next door who's coming in with an ML. See what he does. Learn from his, you know, and there's so much to learn from a 25-unit apartment than you being with your parents who are paying rent and, you know, and so every opportunity that God presents sometimes allows you to know what to do. Then performance management. Since you are doing kitchens and restaurants, well, so a restaurant and any business has 3 profit levels. The first profit level is the cost of goods that you're selling, right? Okay, I'm buying goods at this and I'm selling them at that. At the core of business, it is buy low, sell high. And so a lot of people in Uganda don't track that the cost of goods you sell. Actually, so in restaurants, if you're not hitting 25% cost of goods you're selling, you're already cooked, right? Because, so my target is 25%. That for every product that I buy, right? Mark it up by 75%. Now, but then now there's other costs. So, because the thing is that, so your gross profit, cost of goods you're selling, is 25%, which means you're left with a profit of 75 at that point. But then now you have the cost of administration and staff, right? Which is about 30%, right? So we need to make sure that between your rent, between your staff costs, right? Between all the other things that allow you to operate the business, is at 30%. Then now is the cost of marketing and growth, right? How much do you spend to get, how much of 1 shilling do you spend to get 1 shilling? Right? And this is very, very important. Typically, we think that customers should come on their own. That people should just find you because you have a good product, you know. And so for me, the last part, so typically I take 10%. I need 10% of everything I make to go back in acquiring customers. In the end, right, if you put on the cost of business, taxes, you land on at least 80%. Now, that's my target. But remember, for me, I've put in 10% in the marketing. I've put in the cost of taxes. And if I was to remove the variable ones, why my target is always 30%, right? But I know for sustainability, I cap it at 20%. So I know I've covered everything, the interest, all the other obligations you have, government, you have 20% is a sustainable business in Uganda. To Ronnie, so I may have answered the one process. Well, I think the biggest, it's not, it's always people. Because you see, unfortunately, in business, so a business has a product, right? Has a place, and has customers, right? But what puts this together is people, routines, and systems. Together they make a culture, right? So systems and routines are managed by people. So I find that even with the best systems, that people will always come in and disrupt. So the biggest challenge is people, which is why that if you want to be a good manager, build the right systems, right? The right culture, and then manage aggressively. This is your dream. Like, no one should play around with it. Okay, in my view is that we have a culture whereby we're shy to do the right thing, and we do the easy things. That, you know, this employee is bad, you know they're not performing, but he has been loyal, he has been around, or he's your relative, or no. No one can play with your destiny, like nobody. Like, for example, my wife is not in my businesses. She was the first one I fired because and I removed her from all the groups. I woke up one day, she was off every group. Now, she had so much value in terms of she would see things and point them out in ways but it was not consistent enough, right? And when it came in, it came in as in ways that, so in my view, that for the business to thrive, she had to go, right? And so maybe if it's not your husband or your wife, it's that you need to know that there's nobody who can get in the way of creation, right? And also know when to also remove yourself. You know, the challenge is that, okay, you find somebody wants to be the marketeer, wants to be finance, I have a colleague who has a big company worth hundreds of billions, but you cannot spend 1 shilling without his approval. So the whole business is slow. Good employees are leaving. So I think he should fire himself from some functions and hire the right people to be able to grow. So also know which people need to go, which people need to stay. Just because it's your business does not make it a family business. It's not a family business. In creation, there's no relationship, right? Those people, you create a business and say, oh, your church member wants to join. No. They're your church members, your friends, they're not creators. They're not in your creation story. For me, so people for me is, yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kawamara, for sharing your business journey with us. It's quite inspiring. My name is Edward Kalyasubula, and I'm a dental surgeon. In your submission, you said that you've done some health insurance backbone systems.
Done what?
That you have created some health insurance systems.
Yes.
And I'm in the health sector. And my question is, what are the possible value points that we, the medical people, don't see that you've been able to identify that we can tap into and be able to create value for our health system? Thank you.
Thank you. I think the medical space, for me, the medical space is an interesting one. Very specialized, the hardest to scale, and the least adaptive in terms of technology, right? And so, you see, let me give you an example. You're a dental surgeon, very talented, you have a dental clinic, right? Now, you're one dentist, you hire more dentists, but there's only so much you can have. If you're very good, maybe you'll get a lot of patients, but each of those doctors can only work 8 hours a day, and you can also work 8 hours a day. So no matter how good you are, your scalability stops at 8 hours per doctor you hire. They won't work 20 hours a week. So the question is then, how do you scale a business of that sort? Now, unlike other, opening up another location is another way of doing it, right? But it's very costly, right? And so I always told a lot of people, like, actually it's not, that difficult in many areas. How many clinics do you know don't have a dental practice? There's so many. Hospitals don't have a dental practice. Okay, how about, you know what Lancet Labs has done? Lancet doesn't own a hospital, but they're everywhere globally. If you go, about 80% of all hospitals now are running Lancet systems, but Lancet is in South Africa enjoying. All they do is they send you equipment and they take a share of the revenue, right? Now, a lot of the dental surgeons have not thought about how do you scale without actual practice, right? It's something with legal practice, it's so much you can do to scale a business. Technology enables that, right? Enables that. So for a lot of the dental spaces for me, it's technology, but also leveraging those who already have the infrastructure, existing infrastructure. Yeah. But it's a scalable one. For insurance, so we're designing this for government. So it's a 2-year project. Look, how do we make sure that those who can afford insurance pay, right? And offsetting those who cannot afford the insurance. So we're running simulations using government hospitals, using some private hospitals, and using the IRA, Insurance Regulatory Authority data, understanding how much the private companies pay, right? If we put a surcharge on any of the insurance, how much will it offset? Now, then the question is about the elderly and the young children. How much would government need to pay, right? And how much would that affect the private healthcare if everybody all of a sudden can afford healthcare? Like you see, the marketplace is designed that some people can't afford it, right? The healthcare marketplace. So the question is, okay, if everybody can afford it, if everybody could afford to go to IHK Muyenga or Nakasero, what would that mean for IHK Nakasero? Would those of you who go there, can you still go there? It would create distortions in the market. So it's a bad thing, yes, if there's no sort of mitigation. So that's why the government cannot wake up and say, all of us have an insurance card and you can go anywhere. It would create a market distortion and all of us would get worse of healthcare. So it has to be a phased approach. This is why we're working on the technology to make sure we have the right simulations, right? And in my view, my suggestion to government was actually, if you're going to provide healthcare or healthcare mandate for everybody, right? You need to privatize the government health institutions and allow the private practitioners to take them up because they can invest based on demand, right? Whereby government will never be as efficient. So it's a much more complicated, say government saying you can provide healthcare, sounds nice, but it would distort access for everybody else who was already participating, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nehemiah Subi, and I'm 18 years old. I was wondering, what advice do you have for someone as young as me trying to get where you are? And may you please also mentor me?
Good afternoon, Ron. My name is Martin. You've talked. You have shared with us some of the lenses that you look through when you're seeing business opportunities. But what you've not shared with us is how do you balance faith and financial gain? How do you create that delicate balance? Because opportunities may come, they may meet all of the hoops that you've talked about, senior management, expertise, ecosystems, and all of those other parameters that you've put that are sound and they're good for sustainability. But at the end of it all, as a believer, you're looking at how you can be able to bring God's kingdom on earth. Because yes, you're building for your family and for the future generations, but there's also the other side of looking at your work as an act of worship to God. So how do you balance those two?
Okay, let me start with you, Pastor Martin. Right? Yes. There's a book that I was telling you about. It's called Give and Take by Mr. Adams. So, Give and Take. And this book says there's three kinds of people. There are those who are givers. There are those who are takers. There are those who are in between. They balance both. And he argues that the most successful people are the givers. Because giving forces you to understand people, to learn about people and what they need. What people need, it forces you to understand, to form relationships. And the worst performers are those who are only takers. Because takers don't invest in knowing people. They're just receivers, right? And so, and for me, it goes to the ethos of creation, right? To create is to give. Yeah. Because it's people, it's time, and it's capital, right? And so for me, the best way to add to God's kingdom is to also create like he did. But not every creation fits in the value system that you have. And that's why your own creation is the best, because it's a reflection of your fruits. They say that even the Bible says, I'm not a very good Bible pastor, but I read it once in a while. They will see them by their fruits. They didn't see them by the actual, they see the fruits, which is a product. Right? So if you have not created, right, there's no fruits, which means that even your soul is dead. You're stagnant. Right? So in my way, that by the fact that you're creating, it's a reflection of your values, your faith, and to not create is a rejection of all the gifts God has given you. It's a rejection of what God has given you, because God has given you time, he has given you people, which is you and others, and has given you capital. Start with whatever you have. So what you create is what the Bible says, they will see them by their fruits. So your fruits will speak about your value system and so on and so on. But when you not create, then you are participating in someone's creation where you don't really have, you are just, which example can I give? So very often in government, you say you're a government employee, right? You're not the one who sets the policy, but you are implementation. If you are implementing a vision that oppresses people, that if you're a tax collector and you're going against somebody who shouldn't, you're part of somebody's creation. So creating is the one way you can be assured that your own values, whichever they are, can be put out, and they can have a life to scale and to share and to pass on. And so whatever the values are, we will see them with what you create. Yeah. Yes. Yes. No, indeed, Pastor talks about even the parable of the talents, right? Like, one buried it. What did the Bible say? What did God say he was? Wicked. And I can tell you that, remember it was 1 talent, right? But he kept it. The other one had 3? 2. And made them, how many? 4. Then there's another who had 2. 5, and made them 10. There's a lot when you create with the little that you have. And so when you sit on the one, for me, the one is the job. And the biggest, maybe oppressive, is the way they create the 9 to 5. It was meant to keep you part of another creation that's not yours, yeah. So you can compare the 9 to 5 career to the 1 talent. And then, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if it has offended people, because I have been there. I've been there. And I'm talking to somebody, and I tell this to our people. We have about 2,800 staff between our security company and our workers. And I tell them this, of 2,800. Yes. And I tell them the same. And we tell them the same, that there's a skill set, there's time that we want you to create. The people who are creating their own lives are much better for us. You must create, yeah. Pastor, I don't know if I answered your question. Okay, thank you. Then there was Suvi. Suvi, you're not young. Yeah. You're not young. You're old enough. By all measures, you're a man. And so you're not immune to the creation. You must create, right? God has already given you enough to create, right? And so you have to find your passion and your vision. Make sure that every day, every week, every month that you're trying to create something that adds value. Maybe now it's your parents, right? Maybe it's participating in your parents' business. Maybe now it's creating your pathway to your education that you want, but you have to create. You have to create the life that you want. The hardest thing we all have, the hardest thing in life for me is managing oneself. Managing self. At the job, you can be a very good employee, you can be very good people at school, but managing thyself is so hard. And for me, now I'm 40 years old. It's harder than even when I was younger. Imagine I should say I'm now older and have experience, I have a family, but it's a struggle every day, managing your impulses, managing your worst impulses, managing your ambition, trying to create, staying on track, managing expectations, being a husband. It's managing yourself is the hardest thing. So, and to be able to manage yourself, it requires many self-awareness, faith, Pastor mentioned, accountability, but above all, you must create the life that you want. You must create the life that you want in the friends that you choose now, in the trajectory you put yourself on what you want to do. You and only you can create that for yourself. And it begins with managing yourself. And for me, that's been the hardest. So before you look for a mentor, and I think it's overrated. I think it's very overrated. I think if we're to look clearly, we have enough mentors around us. We have parents, we have siblings, we have teachers, we have pastors. I think sometimes we don't see what we have, but we think it's out there, right? And you will see that when you get older, that. So I'll tell you this, that for me now, the one thing that I'm so mean with is my time. I will give willingly my resources, but my time,
So we appreciate you being here.
it's hard.
Really. Yeah.
So,
All right, we'll take two more questions because we are closing in the last 10 minutes. Now, the last question will be a lady. The last two.
The last two.
Okay.
All right. Just to be clear, I'm a gentleman. But anyway, my name is Sidi Mia. My question is similar to my age mate Nehemiah, but yes, from a business point of, we have limited time. Yeah. From a business perspective, what decision or routine have you done that is yielding so much results that you wish you had started earlier? And then my second question is the reverse of that. What business routine or actions how are you doing that you had to stop because of the effect it was having?
okay. Next one.
Thank you for the knowledge. My question is, what practical ways do I... My name is Sheena. I run a nail salon, and I think I failed to measure performance. So what practical ways do I use to measure performance in the salon? Because it's a service business. We have polish, we have these different things. I think it's even beyond just what I'm using. I think it's also beyond, it comes to the nail techs and all those other things. So what practical ways do you think I can incorporate in? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Yoshina, so how many people do you employ in your salon?
Currently, I employ 3.
3.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how much you pay them per month? You pay them per month or per day?
I give them a commission.
A commission, right? And how much money do you pay in rent, electricity, water? Do you have a number? Okay, let's call it X.
Yeah.
All right. Right? So we're on there's URA stuff here. Yes. So have X amount.
Yeah.
Do you know how much money you make per customer per day on average?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So,
not fixed.
but on average, you do average at the end of the day
Yeah.
when you have a number.
Yeah.
So you multiply that by 30, you know how much you make per month, right?
We work 26.
26 days. Okay. So you know how much you make per day, you know how much you make per customer per day, and you know how much your costs are. So for me, I'll start with, for example, is how many people do I need to serve to cover my costs? Right? That's why I begin. How many people do I need to walk in per day to cover my costs? In my restaurants, we have a tracker. So I will say, how many plates do we need to hit just to break even? So if we hit it by 1 p.m., everybody's like, yes. Right? How many plates do we need to sell to cover our costs? Because most of our costs are fixed. Right? So how many people do you need to serve per day to hit the break even? After you know what's your break even point, right? Now you're in the profit margin. Then you go backwards and say, okay, how much am I spending per customer who comes in? How much am I spending? You remove the commission, now you go to the products you're using, right? Now, maybe you can isolate them between those who are doing nails, those who are doing pedicure, manicure, whatever it is. Now, you begin to see, okay, you're spending this much. Okay, but then we look backwards. How much am I buying in aggregate, right? Am I buying daily? Am I buying in bulk, right? Then you see where there's efficiency to get there. So, okay, but how do I track usage, all right? How do I know how much I need to use per customer in efficiency. You sit there and track. You sit there with next 10 customers, you see how they use, and you measure what's left, and you'll come up with a standard measure, how much you should be using per customer. You have to do it, not your workers. You have to sit there and go the 10 customers, and you weigh, and you weigh, and you weigh, and you weigh. Now, next time you'll know if your measurement is by this much. Bar owners are very good with shorts. How do they do it? They know how much, they say how much they have sold in the sales, they will weigh or use a ruler, and they know exactly how much a short has been done. We do the same thing in the kitchen with cooking oil. Now the challenge is that the nail owner, they say, but it's so small, how will I measure it? No, my dear, get the ruler, measure it. Once you know how much you need to use per customer, now you're on the way to tracking your business. Because then once you remove that wastage, then you know, okay, for this amount of customers served for this product, this is my usage. Anything in deviation, there's fraud. There's customers who have come, who have not been declared, or there's somebody who's doing their own nails, your workers are doing their own nails, whatever it's going on, but have a way to measure performance. So it begins with how much you're spending per customer, right? How much you're using per customer, and what the overall aggregated cost is. You will know what to do. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, the last question. Was there? Yeah.
No, I think Mia
Was there another question?
had a question that he asked. What is one thing that I changed? I think that people, that when I left the wrong people, God was there with me, because the wrong people are in the right places.
Okay.
And I'll tell you this.
The wrong people are in the right
Yes.
places.
And so I'll tell you this. When I came back, and I was, remember I'd left in senior 4, if you were here at the beginning. So I left, I was never part of, I didn't do HSC, I didn't do university, I didn't have like an alumni of HSC and university like everyone had.
Yes.
But because I was doing very well, successful in my business, I was making some money, I found myself that joined the EAT kids of Kampala. These are people who had the networks, the connections. I can't tell you the names, but you know them.
But according to your story, you seem like you had connections.
No.
I actually meant to ask you, because some people think if you have connections or if you do business.
Well, for
with
me, I ran
government-
away with connections. So I
Yeah.
can tell you this. And I can tell you that I wasted about 3 years of my life thinking that by being part of this group, they will open doors, they will. And let me tell you this. Like a lot of the people that are your age group, let's say those are 45 and below, right? Which is why we have to like step up. The people that we think are there because their dad made it. Their dad was a minister. Their dad had this factory. Their dad did this deal and did that, did this. And I was wasting my time. I was lost. I wasted my time, I wasted my money. I'd get to work late, hangover, all these things. It wasn't until that I said, no.
You were in their ecosystem.
Thank you. Then that's when I migrated to go with creators. Another thing that is destructive in it, that I said that the corporate ecosystem sometimes that it's an ecosystem of other people's creation. I'm not saying networking is bad. It's not bad. Rotary is not bad. But very often it traps you in this cycle of an illusion that you're part of collective creation. There's no collective creation. Creation is personal. And for me, I thought that by being part of that group, this door will... God, was I wrong? I was so wrong, and I'm not saying it's for everybody. For me, the moment I cut out Now when they meet, they're like, wow, you're still there. They are still meeting at Platia every Friday. They're still meeting everywhere. I don't go. And from that moment, the acceleration that happened, the wrong people are in the right places. They may be in a Rotary Club, they may be in church, they may be in school, they may be in the high places. But the high places, yes, yes. For me, I can tell you that creation is not a collective effort. No, it's not going to be in a group. It's going to be the journey you take, and you need to choose who are part of that. And it has to be other creators, yeah. So for me, it's people that I wish I'd known that it's not going to be it has to be my own journey. Then the second part was the opposite. What I knew now that I wish I knew before.
What you're doing now that you wish you had done before. Started doing money.
Oh wow! Well then, probably you guys are online, so I don't want this. No, it's. You see, the path of least resistance when you start a business is that, okay, you want to work with people that you trust, that you know, and then you substitute that for systems, processes, right? There's no substitute. There's nobody out there who's worth trusting more than a system, more than there's nobody. The only person trustworthy forever is God. Everyone else is as fallible as it comes. And when you realize that actually there's nobody out there who you should trust over, you trust your systems and routines, trust no one. And I'm saying it's not because that when in the absence of a system and a routine and a process, all of us resort to our natural nature. And by nature, we sin. And so you must deploy accountability. Everything you do must have an authority. If you ever have a business where there's no clear authority, right? And authority is not just an order. An authority is a process. That this must be approved, and to approve I must have A, B, C, D, and I must verify it, and I must have a checkout, check the checker. You will not succeed, my dear friend. So whatever, maybe you have this, but trust no one in business, because in the absence of authority, but even in our personal lives, like of the worst days of my life is when I felt I didn't have an authority figure, like, you know, and now when you are interviewing staff, be wary of hiring somebody who doesn't have an authority figure in their lives. Me, I left my family, I don't know, my wife left me, my husband. An authority can be your husband, can be your wife, even your children. In the absence of authority, be very careful. Do not hire anybody who doesn't have an authority figure in their lives. They will not have authority in your business. And you must create authority in for me, I hired people who, because of my relatives, my this, my that, my la 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 la. The single biggest mistake. Now, trust no one. Trust the systems. Yeah.
Friends, we have to close. Jeremiah 17:5. Thus says the Lord, cursed is the man who trusts in man and makes flesh his strength, whose heart departs from the Lord. Psalms 118 verse 8. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. God trusted man once. Ladies and gentlemen, let's celebrate Ron. Mic drop. Oh yes. Let's celebrate Ron for giving us his time. He said Time is his most valuable thing. So thank you so much. And I know these guys have received a lot of value. You've just been creating value, the thing you've been teaching us. And the same thing you told me. Your life is about creating value. When you teach, you're creating value. So thank you for creating value in everyone here.
Thank you so much.
Let's celebrate him one more time.
Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to take. Guys, it's been a great, great honor to have you. And I suspect we still know about you. So if we invite you to try and dig a lot more, please accept our invitation. Yes, on behalf of everyone here, on behalf of Apostle Moses Mukisa and Pastor Ari who lead us, thank you so much for sparing time to add value to us. Ladies and gentlemen, see you at the next BLN Connect. We're going to share this link. You can feel free to share it with other people who are not able to make it. God bless you. Have a great evening.